on Liverpool in general, though, and you asked this question backstage, Neeks, because there were some real big defensive mishaps again, namely Virgil van Dijk being cooked on social media. I saw all evening, I saw Van Disney trending, kind of making me laugh a little bit.
He was doing the limbo, Terry, man.
The Arabic commentator on being called him Virgil van Maguire, literally.
Wow, and that's crazy.
Maguire couldn't bend his back like that. That was some. If you know Caribbean dancing, he was going dancehall, bashment, expert. That was crazy, man.
I hear you, but this is a guy that 2 years ago was universally seen as the best centre back in the world. He's now having TV shows refer to him as Van Maguire. Is Van Dijk finished at the top end of the spectrum? Because this last 18 months has been very poor for him. Can he get back to his best, or are we looking at a man that is done at his best and is regret? This is the level he's at now.
I wouldn't say it's been the last 18 months. I'd say this season, yes. But at the back end of last season, from about January onwards, he was looking a lot better than he is now. This year, there's been loads of excuses. The team's been bad. This, that, and the other. Look, at the end of the day, he will never get back to those levels that he once was. He's had that knee injury. He doesn't have them same physical attributes that we used to rely on so heavily. The issue is neither him nor the team are trying to adapt the defence to that situation. So it's just putting them under more pressure in the situation. So the Perisic one yesterday where he got dropped, 3 years ago, Virgil van Dijk outpaces Perisic and gets to that football before Perisic even gets to it to try and take him on. So, yes, in a sense, he's finished in the sense that he'll never be that same player again. But I still believe he can be the best centre-back on a title-winning team and the best centre-back in the league, just not in the same way that he was before. We have to change it up, how we're playing. We have to go and get the right pieces around him. He's not 28 anymore. He's 32. He's had a knee injury. Let's go surround him with pieces to protect him almost. You're going to have to. Let's go give him a left centre-back rather than a left-back. Let's go give him a DM who wants to get into an actual, defensive position and can cover the ground necessarily. Let's drop the defensive line a couple of yards so he's not having to do 50-yard sprints every time the opposition play a long ball over the top. I don't think he's the best centre-back in the league, though, at the minute. I can't. I can't say that.
Not now, but he was for the last 2-3 years overall. Yeah.
But I think if he was never put early on, prematurely on the pedestal of the Vidic, Rio, Terry in terms of Premier League greats all time, I think the criticism that he will be getting now wouldn't be as much because, well, you've held him to that standard. And every week or every month this season especially, he's proven that he's not that standard, should I say, in terms of the longevity to be a Premier League great. But I guess the question that I posed as backstage was like, who is the best centre-back in the Premier League? Because of course he was universally the best centre-back in the world. He had the injury, and last season he was still very good. And I think for me, he was still the best centre-back in the Premier League. Because nobody really overtook him. Nobody really said, I'm going to step into that vacancy and say, I'm the best. Someone had a good 6 months. Matip was good. Ruben Diaz had a good first year. He wasn't great in his second season. John Stones has been good, for a part of this season. Akanji's been okay. Martin has been okay. Romero got this hype and he hasn't proved why he got this hype.
Let's not forget.
Gabriel.
Let me just say right now, it isn't Romero.
He had the hype. When he came, he had the hype.
He did. For me, honestly, I'd love to say
Saliba. People talking about Saliba being better than Rio at the same age.
I hear that. I would love to say I'd love to say Lisandro Martinez, but for me, right now, the best centre-back in the Premier League is John Stones.
For me, it's Sven Botman. People overlook Sven Botman. People
Right
overlook Sven Botman and the effect he had in this Newcastle team. They have the best defense in the league, and I think with Nick Pope, who can play, but he can play from the back, they still play from the back because this guy Sven Botman is next level. He's only 22, I think, or 23. He is by far the most consistent. He played 31 games.
But Mo,
he's been so consistent.
Let me ask you a question. Because what I'm asking is not who get into your Premier League team of the season 2022-23. For me, that's a different conversation to who is the best centre back in the league, because anyone can have a good season. This season, Saka might be right winger in terms of who's the best right winger of the season, but is he the best right winger in the world? No, Salah's still a bit better than him, but he's had a better season. Botman may have had a better season than, I don't know who the options are, but is he better than? Because for me, to take a position, you have to do over 2, maybe 3 years consistently.
So what's your question? Is it this season or over 2, 3, 4 years?
Overall, like who if Van Dijk is no longer the best, who is the best?
Ruben Diaz. If you want to ask,
I would like to say Thiago Silva, but unfortunately, he's just in the worst, like one of the worst squads you've ever seen in your life.
For me, I would still go with John Stones. The only difficult thing with all the City centre backs is that, by the way, Tom, if you're not speaking, move your mic away from your nose. I can hear you breathing in my ear, bro, the whole time. It's very disconcerting. The only thing that's hard about giving it to a City centre back is the way Pep rotates his team for no apparent reason, no bad form. John Stones could be out the team beginning of next season for the first 2 months because there's a way he wants to play or a certain individual he needs. Botman's up there. For me, John Stones, because he's, for me, just been consistently good for Man City for years, but without ever really being shouted about. I think if Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool definitely had John Stones in their team and he was playing at the level he's at, he would be being lauded far too often. Haaland, because there's goals, it's impossible to ignore. I just don't think City's players ever get enough respect for how good.
What do you say that, Terry? They don't play enough games consistently. Like he doesn't play 25 league games in a row. He doesn't play 30 games.
If you look at the City defenders, they play like 25, sometimes like 25 league games. Because he's rotating all the time.
But Stones has been that guy for them this year. He has been. Like I can't remember a game where he hasn't played. The weird thing about Stones is that he's not really playing centre back.
He's this
weird hybrid DM right, like left back.
Yeah, no, I do get that, but that's also why I say they're brilliant, because I get the point that they play less games. But they might sit out for 2 or 3 matches. They come in and they're seamless. I personally think if you took Van Dijk right now and sat him on the bench for 2 months and then threw him into a game, there'd be rustiness. Like a lot of our players need that rhythm to be good. These guys can just walk straight into the team after a week away, a month away, and they look like they've been playing there forever. Akanji's also another shout. Maybe not right now, but this guy's walked straight into a City team, and he has been imperious this year.
So
but
here is the question,
Terry. Hang on, let me just finish. I do get why you're saying Botman, though, because he's not in as good a team. He's not surrounded by as much quality, and he's been sensational. But I do want to shout out Lissandro Martinez, because he's only 4'1". And he's done a brilliant job this year when everyone said it's foul. So,
can I just give my answer to my own question? I'm going to go Thiago Silva. And you know why I'm going to go Thiago Silva? Because he was world-class before he joined Chelsea.
Yeah.
He's been and that's playing in the back four. He's been world-class since he's been at Chelsea, without a shadow of a doubt. Despite everything that's gone on, and his age is he's getting older and older. Like everyone is, of course, but he's touching 38, touching 40 soon, doing LeBron numbers. But the man doesn't put a foot wrong. I'm not saying he doesn't make a mistake, because he does. Everyone makes a mistake, but he doesn't put a foot wrong. And then he goes back to Brazil and still plays in the back four. So it's not even a case of, back three tacks. There's some players I'm like, yeah, back three tacks. Because when you're in the back four, you're completely different. He plays with any and everyone, and his level hasn't dropped since, AC Milan days? Like, he's just been world-class for years. And it's going to take more than 1 year from Botman, because Stones wasn't City's best centre-back last season, but he's their best centre-back this season. Ake's been brilliant this season. Like, I don't know, man.
Chelsea again.
Can I be devil's advocate here and ask a question? The only team, I think, at the top 6 that concedes more than the XG is Man City. That's credit to Pep Guardiola. They don't concede a lot of chances, but they concede goals more than their XG conceded. Does that in favor of the defenders or not? Because I think if you concede more than what you actually should concede, that means the defenders, every time they had to defend, they probably concede goals. Yeah. Their midfield and their fullbacks and the way they play football, they do not concede chances.
Edison,
I disagree.
Edison's amazing with his feet, but he is a bit suspect with shot stopping sometimes. Just as not for every goal, I'm saying his fault, but there's sometimes where he gets beat at the near post a little too easy. he's not an imperious shot stopper like Alisson or De Gea as an example. So I think that'll be one of the reasons why they concede a bit more than their. I mean,
it's like
why not the centre back? Why not the centre backs? Why not the centre backs? They concede a lot as well.
They do, but no more than anybody else.
They do. They conceded 30 goals instead of 25 XG. Everybody else on the top 6 conceded less. That means the defenders, in a chance, they had to defend well. I know you want to put it to Alisson or De Gea or the goalkeeper stopping, but also Man City always have the ball. Their ball position is higher than everybody else. So the defenders don't have to defend. So they look great. I'm not saying this as a dig at Man City. I'm saying this, it's absolutely great that Pep Guardiola created this system that you don't have to concede a lot of chances.
It's why
he did this at Barcelona. Remember?
I was about to say that. It's why Piqué was the greatest defender of all time.
You remember Victor Valdez had a lot of trophies. Victor Valdez being the best goalkeeper.
Do you know what though, Mom?
Go ahead.
I've got the stats because they've got that goals prevented stat, haven't they? Or XG prevented. Ederson is the 17th ranked keeper out of 20. He's just above the bottom 3. In the bottom 3 is Danny Ward, Illan Meslier, Gavin Bazunu.
Wow.
Ederson has a minus 5.8 goals prevented. That's not on Ruben Diaz or John Stones.
What it is with Ederson, though, because of how good he is with his feet, it's one of those things which it's a bit like Trent Alexander-Arnold as a right back. Klopp can stomach his defensive problems generally over his career because what he brings you with his feet, again, people will say this is an underhanded compliment. It's not. It's just a fact as far as I'm concerned. What he brings you with his feet typically outweighs it. Where it goes wrong for Liverpool is when your overall team has dropped off its quality and you're conceding more chances, you're attacked more, people feel more confident. We spoke about Van Dijk not being as good. It's kind of exposed Trent's weaknesses a little bit more. And if City suddenly got a new manager and fell off a little bit, they would need a new goalkeeper very quickly. If they were conceding 3 or 4 more proper chances per game on average, they would need a new goalkeeper pretty soon because he's good, but he's not at the elite end of the spectrum of stopping shots, in my view. And I think that's where that XG difference will probably come in. A majority of it will be him. And there'll be some mistakes.
Especially since he's got, in my opinion, the best centre-back in the Premier League is Ruben Diaz. I think Ruben Diaz is the best centre-back in terms of a defender. And he's also, you just got to look at the impact he gave that Man City team when he came in. Even last year, towards the back end of last year, he was struggling with an injury, I think. So when he came back in at the back end of last season, all of a sudden he looked a lot better at the back. I think he's the best in terms of an actual defender, but Thiago Silva's up there. But I think in terms of most important, he's right at the top as well. Because
why we're overlooking Saliba, people? Why we're overlooking Saliba?
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Forget about it.
Do you think Saliba's the best centre back in the league right now?
Before he got the injury, I'm looking at his stats right now. He played 27 games in the Premier League. I don't know why you guys are getting thingy. Like, we were comfortable first when Saliba was in the team. Because he's had an injury, and then he's been missing for how many games? Like 6 games now. And then we haven't looked comfortable. We've only looked comfortable in 2 of them 6 games. And he is one of the reasons. He's a massive impact.
Because your backup centre back is Rob Holding. That is why you've looked worse.
No, but not of how good Saliba is.
They'll be fighting.
No, but then let's just throw your logic back on you. You were comfortable first when Jesus was injured. He comes back in, you suddenly start having issues. So we're now saying Jesus is
no, but I've said that we were a better team with Trossard up front than when Jesus came back because Trossard, Saka, and Martinelli was a better partnership. We scored more goals. We looked better attacking wise than when Jesus came in the team. So you can look at Jesus he did well against Liverpool at Anfield, but most of the other games, he hasn't really proved why he's supposed to be playing it week in, week out. But going back to Saliba, like you talk about Sven Botman of how much of an impact he had on Newcastle, and you don't talk about Saliba of how much of an impact he has on. Look how good Gabriel was when Saliba was playing alongside him, and now he's got Rob Holding playing alongside him. Gabriel looks shaky. Was last season.
Gabriel has always been shaky.
Nah, he wasn't. The whole majority part of the season. Shaky. If you look at it, we've kept the most away clean sheets in the Premier League, and we've gone to how many of the top 8 teams, and we haven't conceded away from home. No, but one of our most handicapped was we were so leaky. We used to concede so many goals away from home against the top 8 against the top
Man
6.
United, as
soon as
I know
Saliba
so
and
many
Gabby,
people that
Man United we've got the most.
Yeah, Man United have the most clean sheets. But
I know, but Man United haven't won away from home against the top 9 all season.
Yeah, but Man United have the best home defense by far.
Yeah, but you have to. I know, but you have to look at it.
Dawood, I think you're doing the stats that suits your defender.
I'm not because I'm looking at the stats before Saliba got injured.
Saliba's arguably the best young centre back in the league. Arguably, right? Sven Botman ain't that old, to be fair. I don't think he's the best right now. I don't know how many centre backs his age have ever been the best in their league, of one of the top leagues, or the best in the world at that age. It's, for me, defending is generally a role that, as you get into your early mid-20s and beyond, it's like you've got to learn to play that role, even if you're very good at it naturally, because it's an experience role. It's like when you learn to drive. You pass your driving test, you can drive. But it takes 2 or 3, 4 years of driving to learn to really drive and anticipate the road and understand what's going on. And I look at defending in that way. I want to go to some super chats that have come in.